Hi all, and welcome to Data Lens, the short series where we talk about market research in the outdoor hospitality industry. Today, I'm here with Scott Barr, as always, the president of Cairn Consulting Group. With over 35 years of market research experience, Scott has a wealth of knowledge to share, and I'm here to ask him the questions that you want to know. So let's hop in. On today's episode, we'll be talking about how to spot opportunities in a saturated market using research. So Scott, before we hop in, any comments?
This is one of those areas where market research is a unique tool that you can, I don't even want to call it unique, I guess. It's a very appropriate tool to use in this situation. So this is a direct application of market research, and a very strong one, and one that addresses a pain point for many business owners, whether you're in hospitality or selling products.
Scott, hopping right in here, how do you compete in a saturated industry like outdoor hospitality?
This answer could be really short, but I you know me, I never have short answers. It's all about, in outdoor hospitality, it comes down to, what is your brand? What is your brand? And many organizations, many campgrounds and parks don't think about this enough. And that is, each one is unique. Each one has its own personality and characteristics. So the first thing that you have to really think about is, what is your brand? Who are you? Who are you? How would you describe yourself to someone who has no idea about what you do? And how would you describe yourself in a way that, one, is easy to understand, but also that offers what it is that you do that's unique? It is not telling someone how many RV sites you have and tent sites you have and cabins you have. That's not it. That's not your brand. Your brand is, who are you? What do you offer? What do you offer the guest in ways that reflect you and your park's personality?
Awesome. And thanks for that insight. What research methods reveal unmet customer needs or gaps in the market?
Here again, we've talked about this in the past, that we lean in heavily to exploratory research versus confirmatory. And just like the words imply, confirmatory is, you think you know something, but you're just not 100% sure, so you do research to confirm that. The other is exploratory, which is, you're going to go out and find answers to questions you weren't even aware of maybe at the start. You're going to look for answers that you don't know. So in this case, it's heavily exploratory, and that is, what you're going to go out into the market, and you're going to ask people of all different segments, whether it's current customers, whether it's lapsed customers, a very important segment, by the way, and prospects. And I'm not going to say non-customers, because I think that everybody else comes into the category of prospects. They're just people who don't know they want to stay at your place yet, or they don't know they want to buy your product yet. And that's what one of the things that this exploratory approach does, is it goes out, it seeks these audiences, and then asks them questions about not just your park, what you offer, but also what are they seeking out of an experience. Maybe you ask them a question along the lines of, what's your best case scenario? Or if you were designing a campground, how would you design it? If you were designing a glamping park, how would you design it? What would you have? What accommodations would you have there? What would you have for amenities and services? All those things. Where would it be located? You're building some scenarios and scenario development. And from there, you're obviously not going to always hit the mark on designing that ideal park. That's pie in the sky. But what you'll find in there are areas that you currently have and things that you offer that meet that demand. And then you'll be able to identify areas that you can make some adjustments to help meet that demand. And so the research will help you do that. And the research will help you also identify the ones that are just never going to happen. Someone may say that I want to have a zip line going over a river that drops me in the dunk tank at the end, or something. And you're just not going to do that. They may say, I want to, sleep on top, on the cliff face in one of those hanging beds, but yet you're located in an area that doesn't have any mountains, and what I mean, it's like you're just not going to do that. Plus liability. We won't talk about insurance today, but those are the things that happen that come out of this work. That again, I talked about the segments of the customers. Now you can talk about the different segments of what you offer and what you can and cannot offer. It's like, what can't I offer just because it's unrealistic? What's within the realm of possibilities, but kind of out there a little bit maybe? What's something I can do very easily that's very achievable? What's something that people don't really care about? That's important to know as well. And then the final one is, what do people just, what are they not looking for? I kind of already said that, but the things that are just super achievable for you. What can you do immediately? Some minor adjustments that maybe don't even have a big budget output. What is that, the low-hanging fruit, as they say, that you can reach out to and bring that in? Those are the things I look for first, obviously, and then start building. Start doing your own scenario development, your own strategic planning based on that. These are all things that come out of even just a pretty basic approach to research.
Definitely. And it almost even sounds like you're kind of almost talking about like kind of what's your niche, what's your strength, what's your area. So with kind of thinking on that topic, how do you identify your niche when everyone seems to be offering the same thing?
Again, this is looking at your brand. I think what's important for a lot of places to understand is, one, where are you located and what type of experiences do you have on-site as well as are adjacent to where you're at? For example, say you're located on near a trout stream, maybe on a trout stream. Now, when you're looking at how you're positioning yourself, it's like, wow, people would love to fish here. So maybe fly fishers are going to be a segment for you. So you're not talking about what your accommodations are. You're not talking about on-site food service even. What you're talking about is, we're adjacent to a world-class trout stream, and so any fly fishing angler or any angler at all would love to stay here. So you can come here, you can fish all day. We're going to have the services that, we're going to have morning coffee and breakfast sandwiches before you even, start fishing. We're going to have areas for your gear. We're going to have things like that. So in that scenario, what you've done is you've identified that this is part of who you are, which is you're adjacent to an outdoor recreation activity that people love and enjoy. It's very popular. And from there, you can make some minor adjustments, not just in how you communicate, but in what you offer. So some of these would be fairly easy for you to do. You could change it on your website. You can change, again, maybe adding in some places for people to clean up, maybe fish cleaning stations. There are things like that are very achievable, that are within your reach. And now you really have something to talk about. And this is going to be your brand. It's going to be part of your brand. Again, you're not talking about RV pull-through sites. You're not talking about hookups. You're not talking about any of that stuff. You're talking about the experience. And you've found something that enhances your brand and speaks to what you are.
Interesting. Now, that was a great deep dive, and thank you for that insight. On the same topic, what tools do we use to kind of help evaluate saturation versus opportunity at CCG?
One of the things that we do in terms of saturation, here you really need a two-pronged approach. One is to do a survey, and that you need to quantify some of this stuff, because you need to go out there into the marketplace and identify just how saturated it is, because that's going to tell you something. Sometimes there's a perception of saturation that isn't real. It's just how you perceive it. And for an example could be maybe where your campground is located, there are 4 or 5 other campgrounds just within a few miles of you, and you may think you have a saturated market, but maybe to the guest it really isn't, because maybe 4 of the 5 are completely different campgrounds that don't have the same services and amenities you do, that are attracting a very different type of guest. So the research will find that out for you, and because we may come back and say, you're not really a saturated market. You're pretty much standalone with your brand is pretty standalone here. By contrast, the other side of that is maybe all of them are pretty much the same, because everybody's kind of built the same services and amenities and approach because of where you're located. maybe that you're pretty close to the same size, the same types of sites. There's very little differentiation. In the research, the quantifiable figures that you get out of the research are going to tell you just how differentiated you are. And we have ways of testing that to identify whether people differentiate between your campground and the others within the marketplace. We do that through some secondary research as well, just by going out and objectively evaluating each of the parks as well. But really, it's kind of going out and quantifying that within the marketplace to see, are you truly saturated? If no, hey, let's work on brand development here, because that's going to help you a lot. If it is saturated, we're moving on to step 2, which is to do some qualitative work. And I would offer up, depending on budget and what you have and what we could execute, but I would say interviews with your guests, but interviews with guests of some of the other parks as well. You want to talk to them, have a conversation, figure out how you can differentiate yourself from some of these folks. Look at the experience. One of our colleagues talked about how he was a campground owner for a number of years, and he used to go stay at the campgrounds of the that were in his area, that were his competition. He'd stay there, and just to kind of see what it was like, to see what they were doing, see what they're offering. And guess what? His competition was staying at his park too, to find out what he offered. Because what that's going to do is tell you this isn't intended to be a negative approach. It's intended to be positive, where what you're going to see based on what they're offering is, where's my opportunity? What aren't they doing? I'm not going to go out there and say, hey, these guys suck. They're terrible. It's like we're way better. But no, you're going to say where areas that you fit, where you fit a little bit differently. And again, I'll go back to the original point of your brand. What is your brand? Your brand should be unique. It should be you. It should be your personality, your campground's personality. So that's how you're going to do it. And from there, you're going to find those opportunities, again, through the interviews, through the observations, talking to people. You're going to come up with ideas. People are going to talk to you. They're going to tell you things. What do you like? What don't you like? What would you like to have? What would make your stay a little bit easier? And also watch, observe, see how people interact on your park as well as others. Observe how people are camping. Observe how they're look for those pain points. Look at their faces. Look at their body language. Watch how they navigate the park. All those. There's a lot you can do. You can do that yourself. You can hire us to do it. We'd rather do it because we like camping and we like staying at different parks. So please invite us. We'll be more than happy to do that.
Definitely.
And so, but again, these are ways, especially in a saturated market, where if it truly is saturated, you have to dig in. You really have to dig in, and you have to work. You have to work at finding, how it is. You can stand out, but. One, it's worth it. And two, I would be surprised if you didn't find something. And some things, I think, would be multiple. I think you'd find a bunch of things that you could do, again, easily, or things that you already have. We found that a lot in working with parks, that people have offerings that are part of what the guest experience that they don't even talk about, that are huge. That are big differentiators, and it could be anything from the check-in process to the activities they have that people really enjoy and come back year after year for. It could be one of their staff members that everyone just loves. Again, I was thinking about someone that used an anecdote recently where what they looked for in reviews is, did they mention the staff members by name? If someone does a review of your campground and mentions a staff member by name in a positive way, that staff member has really done their job. Like, I can't remember people's names at all, but if you have people who stay with you and have never met this person before, and they're mentioning their name as providing good service, good experience, that's a person, one, you want to keep that person around, but because they're delivering on that promise, and they're part of that person. That staff member is part of your brand. So again, when you think about your brand and all the things that feed into it, the research is going to help you discover that. It's going to help you discover what your brand is and what you can do, again, to make that unique, stand out, and help your business. Again, saturated markets are It's not the end of days. Sometimes it's an opportunity to do some introspection, to really look at what it is. Again, as I said near the beginning, if someone didn't know anything about outdoor hospitality and you had to explain what it is you do and what you provide, how would you explain that? That would get them maybe excited about staying at your campground. And think of that from the perspective of someone who's never camped, maybe, because that's one of our challenges within the industry. And then I got my high horse on this, but is that we need to learn how to talk to people who don't camp a lot better. We need to figure out the ways to get them to stay with us. And to me, one of the ways of doing that is to explain to them who you are, what you provide, and what they're going to get out of the experience of staying with you. There's a lot that can be done with that. We have a lot of research on this that can help in this process. I'd encourage people to go to our website and go to our resource library and look up some of these sources, and also get in touch with us, contact us, ask the questions. We'll be more than happy to help you out.
Awesome. Well, and thank you for that. And just kind of wrapping that up too. So kind of saying for that last question that evaluating saturation almost kind of breeds opportunity, right? Because you can identify those key moments.
Correct. Absolutely. Well, I've said this for a long time, and having worked in research for a long time, that the times when most innovation happens is when there's a crisis. There's a huge problem that needs to be solved because people think about it differently. They start being solution based. When times are really good, they're less likely to do anything. They're going to keep riding the wave, and they're going to be less likely to want to upset the success that they're seeing. The RV industry is a really good example of that. They were very, very successful during COVID, and now the industry is having some challenges in getting new people into RVs again. So it was during those good times is when they really should have been doing their research. But I'm just saying, I'm saying that because it's true that these issues like saturation really make you think about things differently, and it does create innovation and ideation.
Awesome. So wrapping kind of today's conversation up too, would you say that competitive research helps you innovate, especially in times that are a little bit more challenging?
Absolutely. Competitive research is necessary, and you don't have to be a jerk about doing it. Like, as I mentioned, like I said, the guy that our colleague, he, they all knew him. He knew that, and so on. So they all knew what they were doing. They just what it shows you, if you do your competitive research, even if it's not staying with them, but to just know like what it is that they're offering, how are they positioning themselves, put that up against what you have and how you're positioning yourself, and then look for the gaps. What are neither one of you offering? That's where your opportunity lies. It's like, wow, they're not doing it, neither are we. Here's a great opportunity for us. Again, I use the fishing example because it's easy, is that if you have that opportunity to offer a package, say to anglers who show up or who you've attracted through your marketing, it's like, and no one else is doing that, you're going to stand out in your market immediately. It's gonna make a huge difference, and especially when considering some of the different amenities and services you can offer. Maybe you have fly tying stations. Maybe you sell the material for tying flies, or again you have like a real tackle shop. For non-fly fishers, the lures that work the best. The line, all those things. Replacement rods and reels. Maybe you rent rods and reels. There's again, we can go on and on and on. But if no one else is doing any of that, anything you offer is going to make you stand out. So that is, again, there's the advantage of doing the competitive analysis. If they're already doing it, you're not. If you want to stay even, you better do what they're doing if you want to play in that area. And then you better take the next step beyond that, which could be doing something else. Guides, stuff like that, add some service. I mentioned the breakfast thing. A lot of anglers like to get up first thing in the morning and be out on the river. So if you have coffee, like I said, coffee and a breakfast sandwich, they get up, you have that. It's like that's huge. They don't have to worry about prep. They can just get their gear on and hit the river. Again, making their lives a little bit easier. And again, at the end of the day, maybe you do something. Maybe you have a gathering. People, a social gathering, people hang out and tell fish stories, which we know they love to do. So again, I use that as an example. There's so many other outdoor recreation activities though that you can think of. ATVers, overlanders, there's people, bird watchers. There's, you can just go on and on and on. That if you're adjacent to good outdoor recreation, that's your opportunity right there. It's right there for you. So
definitely. Well, thanks, Scott. It sounds like, really diving into like those niches is really kind of the key to, understanding your saturated market and if it even is saturated. So with that, thanks for joining us today for another episode of Data Lens from Cairn Consulting Group. Today, we covered how to spot opportunities in a saturated market using market research. Don't forget to leave a comment or question for next week's episode. Hit that like button if you like what you see. And as always, subscribe so you never miss out. Thanks and have a great day. Later.
Bye.